Okay, we'll go back to the asylum seekers policy now, and we'll talk about the policy before the politics. And it's a question of whether it will work, I guess. And Sarah Hanson-Young puts a lot of faith in that judgment she's made, that it won't work, and we'll know that soon enough. Can it work?
It's at the risk of coughing out. It is too early to tell. It's been interesting also to watch the coalition's lines on this as well, with Tony Abbott yesterday and Scott Morrison having variations on a theme, which is essentially unless you have the full suite of Howard government policies, you won't get the Howard government type results in terms of...
Or a competent government managing it is the other line.
A government that has the will. So they're sort of basically setting up the next... front in this.
The government is insufficiently monstrous.
I think the opposition's response on this has been entirely predictable, but has been shameful. I do think that
absolutely.
If this is the big chance, they all got together 7 weeks ago, crying in the Parliament, we want to save lives. Well, here's a plan. Now, I agree. I accept it's a fig leaf for the Prime Minister to change direction on this, a direction a lot of them wanted to take since last October when Chris Bowen suggested it in the wake of the Malaysia swap going down. No doubt about it. Tony Abbott gets to gloat politically, but then to go on every single day and basically tear away at the impression that this government is tough enough to have any kind of effective deterrence, in fact, just contradicts and undercuts the intention of this policy, if you accept the intention of this policy. And I just think that's really poor behaviour from an opposition at this moment in this debate.
It's just appalling that on the one level they're saying this is to save the lives of those poor people who might drown, and on the other hand they're saying we need to have an iron fist, we need to get tough with these people. They're making them sound like criminals, which is not what they are. They are not criminals.
Just on that point, because... Tony Abbott was interviewed by John Fain earlier in the week, and I picked him up on this on a drum column, but it goes to the question of illegals. Have a listen to this.
Frankly, we've had 22,000 illegal arrivals, almost 400 illegal boats.
They're not illegal. Tony Abbott, do I need to remind you that the use of words in this is critical? They are not illegal arrivals. There is nothing illegal about seeking asylum when you are a refugee.
Well, I'm making my point,
Well,
John.
So am I making mine.
Okay, well...
And I think it's been made to you before.
Will she now accept at least some responsibility for the results, namely 22,000 illegal arrivals?
Now, having been admonished and sort of seemingly accepted that, he went on to use the term anyway, but it goes to your point, because if you use the illegals and use that argument, it kind of implies that you're doing this as punishment because somebody is doing something illegal, whereas the motivation is supposed to be about saving lives.
Yeah, and if you arrive by plane, if you come into Australia on a tourist visa and then you say, I'm claiming asylum, you get to stay in the community while they decide your status. You're not punished in the same way the poor unfortunates who arrive by boat. So the people who are the most unfortunate, because the only option for getting to Australia is by boat, are the ones that we come down the hardest on. It seems to me a persecution of people who already have it extremely tough.
But then again, they're not queue jumpers either, and yet now that's the whole terminology the government is putting into place with its no advantage test, as if these people are jumping queues. When you talk to the UNHCR, you try and get a time limit from them of what's the average. They said there is no average because it's on a case-by-case basis. The most needy get dealt with the earliest.
See, that's another really difficult issue, and we'll hear now from the Prime Minister and Judy Moylan, but it's about whether you can establish, whether you can line these people up on Nauru and Manus Island and somehow equate their waiting time with the waiting time of people in Indonesia and Malaysia. Let's hear that.
Angus Houston and his team are saying we should make some assessment about waiting times in the region and generally to find out what's fair, to put people in the same situation as if they had not moved.
At this time, the government is unable to tell any of us how that will be calculated. So conceivably, people may remain there for a lifetime.
Misha, it's going to be complex.
It's going to be fiendishly complex. I mean, how do you say, OK, well, you're... for argument's sake, someone who's come from Burma, many of the Burmese make a land journey across to Malaysia and end up there for a very long period of time, years and years and years. So if you're in that particular ethnic cohort, then you would face, a wait of 10 years, say, whatever. I think it's going to be fiendishly complex, and it also is going to require, the government's saying we need to take advice from the UNHCR and others. Well, I would suspect they would be a bit loath to assist in calculating some of those timetables, wouldn't they?
They can't. They say they can't. They say it's a meaningless equation to try and do. So I think it's all about the government now trying to get this horrendously kind of threatening message out to people who might be considering. Remember, a lot of people have already paid half their money. They're waiting. There's more boats going to come because they've already half invested. But the government trying to say, don't come, this is what's going to happen. And that's the other thing I would say about this is equally as important for the government to get onto and is lifting that limit of people who are going to be assessed or at Indonesia or at Malaysia and going to get assessed and come here, because that's the other part of this factor of the Houston panel is that, get the message out that if you stay put, you've got a better chance now of getting out of there because Australia and hopefully other countries are going to lift the limit of the numbers of people they're going to take.
And that is crucial, that increase in the places, and that's the part that seems least certain in a sense. The government signed up in principle to that.
Move quickly.
The opposition specifically hasn't signed up to that. They say of the 20,000 places, well, that was a one-time offer in their negotiations in June, and they're not going to sign up at this
stage. But the Greens will
juncture.
have to back that, won't they? I mean, presumably the government will move on that very quickly now, and the Greens, I guess, will have to back the lift in the number of people.
And they're saying 20 rising to 27,000. What's the time frame on that? Or
Another 5 years.
Another 5 years from 20 to
20 immediately, so an extra 7 immediately, and then in 5 years' time another 7 again, which is not huge numbers, really.